Welcome to another episode of the Mark Jackson Show. I'm Mark Jackson. We're on the Come and Talk to Me Network. My guy, the dynamic one, Blue. We have a very special guest today, but first, let's pay some bills, Blue.
I got you, Pops. Shout out to our sponsors, Underdog Fantasy. Click the link in the description and use the promo code MARK. That's M-A-R-K, and they're matching a first-time deposit of up to $250. Go ahead and also like, comment, and subscribe, man. We paying attention to what y'all saying. I'm excited. It's a legendary guest today, Pops. It's on you, man. Go ahead, bring it in.
Southern University's finest, two-time NCAA assist champ, a guy that won an NBA championship with the San Antonio Spurs, coached in the league, was coach of the year, also coached the NBA All-Star game for the Western Conference. An absolute joy to be around and one of the greatest leaders in the history of sports. Went undrafted, but played 16 years in the NBA. The legend, my guy, my brother, Avery Johnson, Coach Avery Johnson.
Yes, sir.
What's going on, bro?
You guys. Hey, I appreciate you guys having me on. But hey, Blue, before you were born, your dad did me wrong.
He
Did me wrong, Blue. Blue, I don't know why I'm joining you on this podcast. Blue, 1986, my first college basketball game on the Division I level. After junior college and NAIA school, we go to play against St. John's in this Joe Lapchick tournament, and your daddy did me wrong. I was 5'10", 140 pounds wet, and he put that big body on me, Blue. I still haven't forgiven him, and I'm on your podcast.
I'm going to tell you what, since you brought that up, one of my greatest accomplishments, I humbly submit, is the all-time record for a rookie in the history of the NBA that still is current. And I'm proud of that. But before that, I broke the assist record in the history of college basketball in 1986, Blue. I became the all-time leader for a single season in assists. I'm thinking that's going to last forever. It lasts a year. And a guy from Southern University, Avery Johnson, shattered the record. Didn't just break it, but shattered it. That had to be special for you.
Hey, Mark, you know how it is when you got good players. If you got Chris Mullin and Willie Glass, and I had Dervin Johnson and, Kevin Florent, man, and we just had a running gun system. I think we were fifth in the nation behind UNLV with those boys, with Mark Wade and the boys. But yeah, man, my record still stands today, 13.3 assists per game. That average has been standing the test of time since 1988.
It sounds Blue. That's the political answer, giving credit to the others. No, you were making plays out there, baby. You was making plays.
You know how it is, Mark. We love the little mustard on our hot dog, right? I'm from New Orleans, so I had to throw it all behind my head. Hey, we were like the baby Lakers of the SWAC, right? The HBCU, baby, representing. But it was a joy to come up there and play against you guys. We played against St. John's. We played against Marist. That was the first time I saw a man 7'4" in my life who was going to eventually be your teammate. You didn't know it at the time with Rick Marist. So did I get the name right?
Rick Smits.
Rick Smits. I got brain lock, but he played at Marist. But just to see, that guy. And then from there, we went on to play against Danny Manning at Kansas. We needed that money. We needed, we HBCU. So we went for another bye game. Larry Brown was the coach and Danny Manning. So to have a road trip where we play against the great Mark Jackson, Chris Mullin, Rick Smits, Danny Manning, and that was a life-changing experience for me and a great introduction to college basketball.
But that's amazing, Coach, that you were able to get your get back on my pops by getting that assist record. He just posted me up my whole life. I never got to get my get back. So congrats.
That's right. That's right. I love it.
All jokes aside, you talk about all the great players that you played against at that time. Can you just speak a little bit about the experience playing for legendary coach Ben Jobe at Southern University?
Oh, man, you talking about another life-changing experience. Forget about basketball, Coach. He's one of the top 5 human beings, men that I've ever met in my life. Just the way he carried himself, I've never heard Ben Jobe use one bad word. He wasn't cursing us out, but he had a way of getting your attention. And there were times he allowed me to coach practice to try to get his message across to the team. We spent a lot of time behind the scenes talking about life. And basketball was just dessert. He was all about life and academics and what's your plan B if basketball doesn't work. But his system, that running gun system, before all of the Mike D'Antoni's and all these people that talked about scoring in 7 seconds, Ben wanted to score in 5. We we were the best conditioned team I think in the country. John McClendon, who he learned the game from. It was just an incredible ride at Southern. We sold out every game. Fans were just, man, it would be amazing if we had social media back then. But it was a fun ride. 2 years in a row, we went to the NCAA tournament, lost to Temple my junior year, and we lost to Kentucky my senior year. And again, just great non-conference schedules that really gave us a tremendous amount of exposure.
Talk about how proud he's got to be or had to be of you as a man. You didn't just leave Southern University. They retired your number 15, and on top of that, named the court after Avery Johnson. That's a tremendous honor. That's raising men, not just basketball players.
And Mark, for me, I was the 14th man on my high school team. They called me Little 30. They only put me in when they were up by 30. 1983, we're the 5th ranked team in the country behind that great team from Dunbar with Muggsy Bogues and Reggie Jackson and the boys. And we had a great team, but I was a 3rd string point guard. And to see how I went from a 3rd string point guard, go to JUCO in the NAIA route, land at Southern, and get off to an NBA career where I'm still waiting to get my name called in the 1988 draft. They had 3 rounds, and I still didn't get my name called. But to go through all of that and be presented with that honor of Southern retiring my jersey, naming the court after me, man, I'm hoping that is inspiring to a lot of guys that are coming up that may not be the biggest guy on the team or the fastest or have the most athleticism, but you can still find your place, whether you make it in basketball or in some other field.
Hold on. That's a movie right there. You went from being the 3rd string point guard, not playing, to a 16-year NBA career and an NBA champ, and your body of work and your resume. That's a big time gap. My question to you is, how did it happen?
Wow, that's a great question, Mark. So, unfortunately for our starting point guard, and fortunately for me, right before the playoffs our senior year, we got into the state tournament. He got suspended for, conduct detrimental to the team. And because he got suspended, I was then inserted into the starting lineup because our head coach wanted to keep the rotation the same. So I started. So I went from 3rd string to starting. And then other games, maybe he brought me off the bench. But I went from playing basically, minutes, unless it was a blowout, to some meaningful minutes. And I caught the eye of one junior college coach who I'm still friends with today, Coach Ron Black at New Mexico Junior College. I had never flown on an airplane before. And in 1983, I jumped on Southwest Airlines from New Orleans, connected in Houston, and landed at Midland. He was there to pick me up. And that was the only scholarship I had, the only one. And I played at New Mexico Junior College. And we've had guys, like Spud Webb that played in that same JUCO system at Midland, Odessa, New Mexico, Mookie Blaylock. They've had a tremendous Larry Johnson. They've had a tremendous amount of guys that played in that same West Texas Junior College circuit. And I'm one of the products of it. And it kept my career going. And it kept me going to then, transfer. I was in the transfer portal back then before it was famous. Transfer to NAIA school and then landed at Southern, where my high school coach ended up being an assistant coach, and he recruited me to Southern.
I guess my question to you, one question off of that before Blue comes in. That Southwest Airline flight, did you have a middle seat, an aisle seat, or a window seat?
Hey, was not A business select. I was in the middle and I was scared to death because I was 18 years old and I didn't know, man. They gave me 3 bags of peanuts. I ate them all in 30 seconds. I was so nervous.
So, Coach, knowing that you calling the big three, you calling college games, your hands are in the game so many different ways. What do you see as far as the difference between the players when you were playing and the players today? Now that they get NIL money, they're getting social media recognition. Is there a big difference, or what do you see?
Well, first thing, Blue, I want to give a big shout out to my colleagues at CBS. It's been an amazing ride. You know, CBS Sports Network, where I call college basketball games, CBS Sports HQ, where I'm on basically daily, covering the NBA. It's been a wonderful ride, and I'm not going to start naming names because they know who I'm talking about. And then the big three, uh, uh, covering the big three. Ice Cube has done a tremendous job, man, moving the big three around the different cities. Now you got more guys buying big three teams. The ratings are up, both on CBS and on social media. So I've enjoyed that ride, just being in the media. And Mark, you know about it. You had an illustrious career, not only as a player but also in the media. You should go in the Hall of Fame on both, in my opinion. But
Thank you.
Blue, what I would say is, at the end of the day, it's all about doing what's best for you at this time in your. There's no really cookie cutter effect, right? Just you take it as it comes. One day I'm coaching in college, leading Alabama to an NCAA tournament. The next year, we part ways. One year I'm leading the Mavericks to the NBA Finals. 2 years later, after having probably the top 6 record in the NBA, winning, 66 games, you're moving on. So at the end of the day, man, it's whatever's thrown at you every single day. You just got to continue to take that next step. Take that next step. And I've had a wonderful career, whether it's playing it. And the game today is different because of this mobile
Yeah,
device.
yeah,
It's a different world.
yeah.
When Mark and I were playing, we didn't have fax machines, email, Twitter, TikTok, Zoom, Riverside,
Yeah.
cell phones. So it's just a different, we didn't have clicks for likes or reposts. Just a different time. Now it's about freedom of movement. It's about offense and 3-point shooting. It's threes or layups. I was a mid-range guy. I got to my spot. I just wanted to get to a spot where I thought I could make it on one of the elbows or a short corner. That's why I took my shots. But it's different era. And, guys in my era, we were more two-way players. You try to post up Muggsy Bogues or Avery Johnson, and you're going to severely get elbowed in the back, and the referee wasn't going to call it a foul. Now it's a flagrant. So it's just a different era. Different, not better, not worse, just different. And I celebrate the players of my era and the players of this era. They're taking advantage of of the rules.
Well, two questions off of that. You coached in college at Alabama, where you coached a young star that would have a future in NBA and Colin Saxon, but you also coached your son. Talk about that experience.
Ooh, boy, you. All right, I'll take the easy one. Colin Sexton. Let's start with the easy. Let's start with the softball question. Colin, the University of Alabama should be forever grateful because when he took a chance as a 5-star player. Now, when we recruited him, he wasn't 5-star at the time. He eventually worked hard enough to become a 5-star in high school. But with him, keeping his commitment, because he gave us his commitment really early. All those other schools, I wanted to tell him, you're chasing, you're swinging at the air. You're not getting it. But for him to lead that class along with guys like a Herb Jones, who's now starring with the New Orleans Pelicans, and guys that are playing overseas in G League, Alex Reese and playing in the G League. And, Galen Smith playing overseas, John Petty. A lot of those guys, along with my son transferring in from Texas A&M, which was also really critical, maybe not as spectacular on the court as Sexton, but behind the scenes, it was significantly important for me to have my son. But Colin should be forever grateful. I know a lot of those five-star players that are going there now and signing, but Colin made it acceptable to go to a football school like Alabama and play basketball. Now, the other side is a little bit dicey because, when you're coaching your son, which I love, and my son is incredible. He's an incredible business. He's got 3 different ventures right now. In the hydration drink he's launching called Flourish, that's launching in October. He's got a 5-star sports bar opening up in Scottsdale in October, November, 40 Love. He's got a couple of things, a lot of collaborations with NBA players. And I'm also proud of my daughter who just got married April 13, and she's
Congrats.
doing great, just starting a new big time job with a sportswear company based in Los Angeles. But when your son is like that 7 or 8 man, mama wants more playing time. And when when you're sleeping with mama, that pillow talk is a mean thing, man. So it could be joy and pain, but one of the main reasons why I took the Alabama job was because I knew Avery Jr. would transfer and help me get that program out of ICU and get it back to respectability. And it was mission accomplished.
I know the feeling because Blues Mom want more solo shots of him on the show.
Yeah. She was trying to get me on the Warriors.
I get it. It was funny because he had one really outstanding game, 20-plus points at South Carolina, and a game-winning single or double overtime, and big shot after big shot, and I was just pumping my fist like, yes! And I was doing it, not just as a coach, but as a dad. And, it's just really proud because he went on to get his undergraduate degree, his master's degree. Both of my kids have, master's degrees, and they make you proud. And but you also remember a lot of the dark days when you had to have those teachable moments, like you had with Blue when he made certain decisions that didn't represent the
family. But things happen. We need to get your son on here now because you're talking about him. We need
that'll take 3 hours. That'll take 3 hours.
But Coach,
go ahead.
Okay. So, Coach, how did you get the nickname Little General?
It's funny. We just, back in early August, we had the Big 3 in San Antonio, and I got asked that story quite often. And there's a guy named Tom James that's a longtime PR director for the Spurs. When I re-signed with the Spurs in 1994, this is when Greg Popovich was an assistant coach with Don Nelson at Golden State, along with Don Nelson's son, Donnie. Paul Pressey also was on that staff. We relocated back to San Antonio because Pop signed me. He signed Sean Elliott from Detroit. He brought me in, and I was doing a Kellogg's cereal commercial with David Robinson. And they kept talking about Admiral. And they said, AJ and Admiral, that doesn't sound good. And Tom James said, hey, stop the press. We're going to recreate this whole commercial. The Admiral needs a little general. And we got the little general back. So Tom James gave me that nickname in the summer of 1994, and it just stuck, and the rest is history.
Well, that's a fire nickname.
There are certain nicknames that seem like they're made for the individual that totally fit you and your personality.
Wait, Mark. Well, it used to. So, like Lil Bow Wow, when you're my age, you got to drop the little. So You know, you can't be in your late 50s still being called little Joe. You know, you got to be general, right? So I'm just general.
It makes sense. Makes sense. But talk about the respect, because you touched on coaching your son, and you're in Dallas, and I know the relationship because it's similar to mine. Deion Sanders, Coach Prime, and the job he's doing coaching his sons and leading young men.
Man, what a tremendous job Prime is doing. And I want to also thank him, and I know he got a lot of criticism for making that little pit stop at Jackson State. You talking about reviving an HBCU, uh, not just Jackson State, not just the SWAC, but bringing attention to the entire HBCU schools all across the nation. A lot of people didn't know what HBCRU stood for until Prime went to Jackson State. So I want to thank him for that. And what he's doing at Colorado now, now they're moving into the Big 12. I think his recruiting is better. Uh, you look at his son, he's coaching his son. His son is very dynamic. I believe he's going to be a top 3 pick in the NFL next year, barring any unforeseen situations. But look at the enrollment at Colorado. There's a list between here and Alaska because of what Prime is doing. And at the end of the day, I know it's about winning football game, but it's about also delivering economic power to that university. And the football team is responsible for so many other sports on college campuses that really are underfunded. They can always tap into the football revenues. So just man, hats off to Coach Prime. Amazing job, not only at Jackson State, Colorado, on social media, and I want to really see him be successful.
Talk to me about winning a championship as a San Antonio Spurs. Here's my question. What's going through your mind as you take that mid-range jump shot? Game 5 of the NBA Finals in Madison Square Garden.
Mark, you remember how many arduous hours that we put into our game. I know yours, my off-season workouts are all legendary. People didn't understand, man. We left home at 6 in the morning. We come back at 10 o'clock at night. We're working out 3, 4, 5 times a day, weights, skill work, shooting, summer league, track, pool, whatever it is. And our families understood the commitment. So at the end of the day, make or miss, the games were easy. We didn't really feel as much pressure because of how prepared. I missed that shot 10 million times, but I always got up to shoot it again when I was open. I didn't make it 10 million times, but I missed it 10. But were you going to have competitive spirit, the edge, toughness, tenacity to take it again? We know that play wasn't run for me. That play was 4 down. It was run for Tim Duncan. Everybody else was covered except me. Spreewell got confused, and I was wide open. But when it went in, it really wasn't about me. It was about those folks that believed in me, and it really was trying to, hopefully cause a rough day or a rough night for all the folks that doubted.
We talk about your high moments, and obviously that's a legendary moment. But you say that you're doing it for the people that sometimes have low moments. Maybe you got them through it. Let's talk a little bit about a low moment for you. I heard you got cut on Christmas Day before. What's this about, Coach?
Hey, Blue, look. Let me cut down now. Seriously, let me just be serious here for a moment. Now think about some of the things that I'm about to tell you. Some are a little bit funny, but some are really, really serious. So just think about this for a second. If you look at my whole entire bio, okay? My dad died 2 months before my first child, just out of the blue. Just, just painful, right? I get cut on Christmas Eve. The next year I get cut. I was in David Robinson's wedding in the afternoon. I get cut that night. Larry Brown, Coach Popovich, right? I've gotten fired on my wife's birthday from coaching, from the New Jersey Brooklyn Nets, December 27, 2012. And we can keep stacking them up over and over. You got a 2-0 lead against Miami in the 2006 finals. The series is 2-3-2. I wish it was 2-2-1-1-1, but it was 2-3-2 back then, right? And, you lose in the finals, after being coach of the year that year, coaching the all-star team, as your dad alluded to. So there are so many different moments. I could fill in 20 more. But at the end of the day, man, you got to just keep on stacking it up. You got to, fortunately, my whole faith is in God. And when I gave my life to the Lord in July of 1989, it wasn't saying when I crossed over I was going to live this perfect life, but I stopped depending on myself and start depending more on Him. And that gave me the solitude, the gratitude, the foundation that even if I get not 10 steps back, I can move 15 steps forward. So through the good, the bad, and the ugly, having that foundation, man, has been really a tremendous source of inspiration.
And I know the importance of home court advantage. Since you touched on that, getting personal, I know the MVP of your household. Talk about your wife and her impact and belief in you.
Yeah, Mark, we met 37 years ago when we were at Southern. She was a nursing student. And, we've been married, over 33 years. And that's been really important because, man, it's just a tough profession. And to have somebody, when you're getting cut, when you're getting fired, losing games, winning games, media, and now this social media. This social media, something can happen and it can be 40 times worse on social media than what it really is. So you got to have somebody, you got to have somebody that when you walk through the door, that still got my gumbo ready. You know what I'm saying? Independent of what's being said out here in this social media world. So it's been a great partnership, friendship. Sandra is just an amazing mom, wife, and we give her flowers every day.
We all have a mutual friend in Dr. Mark Jenkins out of Dallas, and he talks about nobody throws an event like the Johnson family. Is that true?
I would say we're probably very ambitious with a lot of our events. Thanksgiving dinners, Christmas dinners, parties for the kids, birthday parties. My daughter with our wedding. Just Mark is, he's been to a lot of those events over the last 20 years. So he's had a first row seat. So the main thing is, it's really not about us. It's about how do you feel when you're attending one of those events and when you leave. How did we make you feel? Do you feel like we gave it our all because you flew to a particular city, got a hotel, whatever it is? We want to be mindful of people's time. Your family's precious, your health is precious, but your time. And if you're going to give us an entire weekend or a night for dinner where you can be a million other places, we want to make sure that you have an unbelievable experience.
Now, I got a few families I need to just clip that and send to. That was so well put. I want to be at your next event, Coach. Send me an invite.
Blue, that hit you in the gut, right, Blue?
No,
I love it.
Coach, with the state of the current state of the NBA, we got guys like LeBron and Kevin Durant that are eventually going to have to leave. Do you believe that the NBA is in good hands with guys like Wembanyama and so many other players? I'm not going to go down the list, but do you believe that the NBA is in good hands?
Yeah, I really do. When you talk about Victor Wembanyama, that guy's unreal. He's walked into a different situation. Your dad will share this. Tim Duncan, when he walked into an older team, I was in my 30s. David was in his 30s. We had Mario Ellie, Sean Elliott. It's different, so Tim Duncan was still going to be great. But Victor Wembanyama's walked into a different situation. We're still trying to figure out if there's another legitimate starter on that team right now. Well, now you got Chris Paul and Harrison Barnes. So they've made some progress in terms of upgrading the roster compared to last year. But, Luka Doncic, man. Luka Doncic is a problem. I'm telling you, I'm here in Dallas, and you can say what you want. That guy's a problem. And Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who's right up the road in Oklahoma City. Jason Tatum. Yep,
Yeah.
Jason Tatum. Put some respect on his name. Jaylen Brown. So we have some guys that are future stars, and I believe this next draft with Cooper Flag coming out, in the 2025 draft, I think the top 5 players in that draft could all be 1A type of players. So I think the NBA is in good shape.
Let me ask you a question. You mentioned Jason Tatum, and a couple of weeks ago, early in the Olympics, Jason Tatum got a coach's decision, did not play a second. Your thoughts on that? In the Olympic game, Jason Tatum, a superstar, not playing a second.
Yeah, I was really surprised because I thought coming into the Olympics, I knew Steph and LeBron and KD were going to start. I thought when KD was out with his injuries, I thought Jason Tatum would definitely start without a doubt, independent of what other players they put around LeBron and Steph. And I'm all for my guy Devin Booker. But to see him then not play, I didn't get it. But coaching is tough. I coached an all-star team. It's 12 players. I just believe coming into this NBA, into the Olympics, we're good enough to at least have an 11-man rotation. This is no knock on Tyrese Halliburton, but I thought he was going to be more of that 12th man, and he was okay with it. I think he's really okay with it. But the other 11 guys, 10 or more minutes every game, independent of even matchups. I think we were that good. I think if they had it all over to do again, he probably would play because we saw subsequently, the next couple of games he started.
And the dude has game. I'm just gonna add that the dude has legit game. He should play.
The guy is top. He's first team All NBA. I'll leave it. NBA champion. Yeah.
We got the general with the eye roll. Let me ask you a question, because you talked about coaching, and we know how it's important to have relationships. Talk about Pop, because from what I understand, I didn't have the privilege of playing for him, but he could break you down one day and the very next day invite you over or have dinner with you. Talk about that experience.
Yeah, the Spurs culture, which Steve Kerr was a part of for years. A lot of times people only associate Steve with Chicago, but Steve was a tremendous teammate. And, even we talking about the Olympics, it's a tough job, trying to keep 12 superstar players happy. It's tough. But Steve was, as much as people want to talk about his time with Phil Jackson, but he's Greg Popovich. And, that culture is not for everybody. It really is. You could talk to guys like Steven Jackson, Mario Ellie, Robert Ory. We already know about Tim Duncan and David Robinson, Manu, and Tony Parker, but a lot of the other supporting cast, they totally understand. And it's a very high accountability organization. And if you get broken down in practice by some of the words that are coming out of Coach Pop's um, vocabulary, and it takes you too long to recover, you're going to get left behind. and I embraced it. I loved it. I loved it. We had some serious conversations, and it brought out the best in us. And it's a culture that's stood the test of time, and I hopefully for their sake they'll bounce back and become a playoff in the championship team again.
Well, Coach, can you share maybe a few stories? I know you and my pops have had some battles over the years. Maybe a few memories?
You know, Mark was always, I saw myself a lot of times when I looked at your dad because just very wise student of the game. When you look at Mark and John Stockton, and the Gary Paytons of the world, Magic Johnsons, those guys, they were 8 plays ahead of them. It was no defense that they've never seen. Always knew how to beat you. It was just a matter of whether the ball goes in the basket. But they were going to make the right play. I always thought, your best defense was when you're on offense, just trying to keep pressure on those guys. And because I wasn't, the leading scorer, I know they were going to always be sagging off me, trying to help out on some of the other scores on my team. So I always tried to make cuts and drive to the basket and get to my spots to try to make them pay. And then when they tried to back me down, fight them as much as I can. And then, fortunately, I had 2 911s called David Robinson and Tim Duncan.
No, this dude is
I
being
used to
too
tell
nice.
Gary Payton, I said, you can drive on me if you want to, but I'm going to be going the other way on the fast break. And Gary, young player at the time, he'll spin on me and go in there with a finger roll, and David and Tim block it. I'm off on the other side. I say, you better shoot jump shots tonight, son. We're not getting to the basket. But it's just great to have those guys. And, the Mario Ellie is another guy defensively, and rest in peace, Jerome Kersey. Mario Ellie, when you got Jerome Kersey, Sean Elliott, Mario Ellie as your perimeter defenders, and Jaren Jackson could just sit there and knock down those shots. Steve Kerr can knock down those shots. We were playing slow, playing that Detroit Pistons half court game. Man, when you got those type of guys, man, it just speaks championships. And we got the first one for the Spurs, and we hopefully catapulted them to the next four.
I hear you mentioning all those names, and I agree with the stellar careers that all of those guys had. But I also heard you say, and I don't agree with this, unfortunately, as great as your 99 Spurs team was, you said that you guys would beat the Chicago Bulls, Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen, Chicago Bulls. Touch on that. Did I hear you correctly?
You know what? If I said it, I believe it. I don't remember saying it, but if I said it, I believe it. Because at the end of the day, Michael is Michael. Scottie is Scottie. Okay? But then we start to get to the other. We start to get to the rest of it. And then is it the first Bulls team or the second Bulls team? So, because really and truly, they would have had no answer for Tim Duncan. Who's going to guard Tim? Who's going to guard David? We can't guard Michael. Nobody in the centuries of basketball can guard Michael. So it's always fun conversations. And we know we'll never find out, but it's always good for the fans to get opinions. But yeah, we really were a terrific team. And, the best team I played on wasn't even 99. The best team I played on was the team that got upset by the Houston Rockets in 1995. That was the team. I started along with Vinny Del Negro, Sean Elliott, Dennis Rodman, and David Robinson. We had Doc Rivers coming off the bench, Willie Anderson, Chuck Person, J.R. Reed, and Terry Cummings. Best team I ever been on. 62-20. We beat Houston 6 times that year. And then they made the trade for Clyde and went and upset Phoenix with Barkley. And they came in hot against us and never looked back. and either one of us would have beat Orlando. They wouldn't beat a young Orlando team with Shaq, but that was the best team I'd ever been on.
Now, I played with some historically great basketball players at their position and in history, but I never played with an individual that was considered the best ever at his position. Talk about Tim Duncan's greatness and the way personality set the tone for everybody else.
Yeah, and I'm going to talk about Tim, and I'm going to segue to somebody else. But Tim, from the minute I met Tim Duncan, and we had our first 5-on-5 with Tim against David, I went in, oh my gosh, I was so excited because his skill set, the maturity, the strength, the footwork, I just never seen it. I mean, I've seen Hakeem, and I played with Hakeem, but this guy was unbelievable. And to really, play against David, who had, and what, defensive player of the year, MVP, whatever it was. That guy was just, and you know what else I love about Tim, Mark, Blue? Independent of how many years Tim played in the NBA, I'll just talk about my short period of time with him, but I know this goes throughout his NBA. He was never late for a practice, film session, airplane, bus, treatment, weightlifting. Never late. Never late. I know that people say, oh man, but you're talking about, 18 years, whatever it was. Never late. Never late. Always, always, always early. Get about on time. Always early. And the funny thing is, years later, when I got traded to from Denver to Dallas, it was like I was looking at another Tim Duncan, but with a different type of a game. The greatest stretch four in the history of the game, Hall of Famer. I was attending his Hall of Fame speech, a Hall of Fame ceremony last year. You talking about the same DNA. It's amazing. One was more of a stretch four that improved his game to post up a little bit more, allowed me to coach him. Unbelievable teammate, but the same workout. Late nights in the gym, 12, 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, shooting that shot. Shooting that shot. We would have practice. He would have his own post practice for 2 hours. But it's amazing how things turn out when you have that type of workout.
Give me your all-time starting 5 guys that you played with, excluding yourself.
Oh, guys that I played with?
Yes.
Oh, I thought you was going to say all time.
No, we'll get to something like
no,
that.
Don't go there. Don't go there. Don't go there. All time guys that I played with. Okay, Tim, Dave. Tim, Dave. So I don't have to put them in position. Just name 5 guys.
I'm going to let you off the hook. You don't have to put them on position because you'd have to figure out something at that 4 position.
Right.
Putting slide
I played with Tim, Dave, Hakeem, Dirk Nowitzki, Steve Nash. Yeah, I played with some,
Man.
and that was before Steve really went on his little MVP. Nick Van Exel, I caught him for a year or two when he was cooking. But again, independent of stats, I keep going back to guys like, the Jason Terrys, the Mario Ellis, the Sean Ellis, because you can't win without those guys.
That's right.
And, when you look at all those teams, I played with Sean Kemp. The guy was, truly amazing on so many levels. Chris Mullin. So it's just those little trivias and starting 5s and second 5s and all that are very exciting. it really just makes you go back down memory lane. And of course, you're going to always forget something.
You bring up a great point, because that Warriors team that built a dynasty is not the Warriors that we know if you don't have a Draymond Green and the things he does on a daily basis.
I gotta ask the easier question. Can you give me who your favorite guards are of today's game?
That boy Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Ooh. And I had headaches because I coached against him when he was at Kentucky. You got to remember, when I was coaching in college, I was coaching against Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Jamal Murray, De'Aaron Fox. Tyler Ulis didn't make it as a pro, but he was an outstanding player. And that's just from one school. So, but when you look at Shai, man, that kid, he's a problem. He's a problem, and he's a problem solver. Obviously Luka, Kyrie, here in Dallas, those guys, they can put on the show. But yeah, those are the guys. Those are the guys that are Devin Booker. Devin Buckets. I've been knowing that kid since he was 12 years old, sleeping on my floor, going to the gym with Avery Jr. Fortunately, their relationship has remained really strong. Avery spent some time with Booker at the Olympics. Devin Booker, man, yeah, he's a problem. So those are the guys that I like.
One thing that jumps out to me, and I'm a big fan of Devin Booker, is he has a underrated nastiness as far as competitive drive and spirit. Can you touch on that, being around him and knowing him?
Yeah, and a lot of times, yeah, he was kind of misunderstood. People think he's just a cool guy. No, man, he's got mean streak. He's tough. He makes tough shots. He plays at all three levels. He's much more competitive on the defensive end. And I think having these experience of losing in the finals, you got to pick up your pride, get on the plane with Drew Holiday, and fly to Japan. That's tough. And now having the ups and downs, playing with KD, who's a pro's pro, and then the experience with the Olympic team, it just continues to take him to that next level. And, for him to, have been in that starting lineup, for a certain amount of games, that's a lot of respect on Booker's name.
And you're right. Getting on that plane after the finals with two guys that just beat you, in Chris Middleton and Drew Holiday, and unfortunately, another guy by the name of Jeff Van Gundy, not fun to ride a plane with.
Oh no, it's great. I'm happy Jeff has landed, as an assistant coach with the Clippers that 1 year with the Celtics. And you guys had such a tremendous run on TV. I actually really miss you guys on TV, but I know things change, and I wish him all the best.
Let me ask you a question. Watching these Olympics and being a fan of NBA basketball, are you amazed at the level that LeBron James is still playing at and what he's been able to accomplish throughout his career?
Yeah, what LeBron James did in the Olympics is beyond amazing. With him turning 40, the athleticism, the explosiveness, and really just being the leader of the team. He does a little bit of everything. Points, rebounds, assists. If you saw him on defense, he has the loudest communication of anybody on the team. Get here, get that. Here comes the cutter. He's a shooter. He's a driver. It projects itself throughout the television. So nothing that he does really surprises me. We knew that he would hang around with the Lakers for another year or two because the Lakers were going to draft his son. That was one of the best unkept secrets for eternity. Yeah, I'm glad that he's going to be hanging around and hopefully have an opportunity to take the court with his son. And I believe Bronny's probably going to spend a tremendous amount of time in the G League this year. But I know when he comes up and plays with the Lakers, that's going to be a must-see TV.
Shout out our sponsors, Underdog Fantasy. Go ahead and click the link in the description. Use the promo code MARK. That's MARK. And they're matching a first-time deposit up to $250. Don't forget to like and comment, y'all. We appreciate it.
Let me ask you this question. Who is your GOAT basketball player? You've seen a lot. You've played against a lot and you've witnessed a lot. Who is the greatest basketball player of all time?
Yeah, so, we can really peel back all of the numbers. Uh, you can even go with the eye test, but everybody else is a distant second behind Michael. Just a distance. And there's no disrespect on it. So please do not send me any DMs on social. Okay? It's my opinion, right? Yeah, Michael, just for all the different reasons. But when you win 6 championships, you're the MVP of all 6. You never get to a game 7. And all of the defensive player of the year, the first team all defense, first team all NBA, MVPs, regular season MVPs. I think there was another stat that, he didn't have as many as the revolving door of free agents that he played. And he did it with one team. And he had to go through Detroit Pistons and the Boston Celtics and the Lakers, Phoenix Suns, and Clyde with that Portland team that could have easily won championships, and Karl Malone and Stockton with Utah. The rules were different. There was a lot more restricted freedom of movement and physicality. So yeah, it's Michael, and I just the clutch shots and just two-way player. Yeah, it's just Michael. What they did with the Dream Team. Yeah.
Okay, and we get it. It's just Michael. I'm
my
fine
drift?
with that.
You get my drift?
Let me ask you a question. You got a million things going on. You're extremely accomplished, successful, doing TV, doing business, all of those things. But the facts are you're an incredible all-time great leader. You were a great coach in college. You was a great coach going to the NBA Finals, former coach of the year. Your body of work is impeccable. If the phone rings, my question to you is why has the phone not rang for you to be a coach again? And if it does, what's your mindset?
That's a great question. I call you Dad Action Jackson. I'm trying to be professional on the podcast. But, the phone has rung. And fortunately, at this stage of my career, I can be very, very selective. And I love what I'm doing here. I've launched a different business. And these folks here, I'm just coaching a different team. And working with some tremendous young people, and they're putting in the work, and we're searching for that success in a different way. So, love what I'm doing. I love being my own boss, spending time with my family. But it's not that the phone hasn't rung. They've just received a dial tone.
It's hilarious, and he's telling the truth. It's hilarious, and he's telling the truth because I get phone calls, and he's surprised that those calls aren't to me and how I'm not coaching anymore.
Well, that's a whole look. I can spend a whole hour. We don't even have time. Your body of work, really, your body of work has just been unbelievable. I'm proud of you. Both as a player, coach, in the media, as an analyst, and hey, like I told you before, if my phone rings, they need to call you, brother. They need to call you. Get back on that sideline action. Get back on that sideline. You're gonna have probably about 4 or 5 jobs open after this year. Get on that sideline. And now that they paying players in college, don't rule out college.
No, I'm fine with that. But talking about paying players in college, what are your thoughts on that?
It's just a different time. The NIL was coming all along. It was coming. And this name, image, and likeness, and and all that these players can participate in and be able to monetize their brand, it was coming. But because there was no legislation, everybody was slow to the game. And now I think the transfer portal is more problematic for college basketball than name, image, and likeness, because kids could just bounce. You're re-recruiting your players every day, every week, every month, every season. So I think that's a little bit more problematic that they're going to have to figure out than the name, image.
And I'm fine with these players getting paid. I think it's a long time coming. You were fortunate enough to play for legendary Ben Jobe. I was fortunate enough to play for a guy that's about to turn 100 early next year, and the great Lou Connor II, Coach Connor II. These guys cared. They were invested in the individuals. They didn't use it as do it my way or you're stuck here. They raised men, and forever grateful for the experience and the encounters with those guys.
Yeah, you don't have enough time to build those relationships with players. Forget about the one and done that started, at certain schools. But now with the other schools, it's not just one and done because the player is going to leap to the NBA. He's going to transfer to another school. And he may transfer to another school after that. We always talk about it's a one-time waiver rule. Man, kids have been going. How many times I'm looking at a bio of a kid when I'm getting ready for an NCAA tournament game, and the kid is on his sixth school, fourth school, fifth school. It's just we live in a different world, and I think until they really solve that, we can't address any other issue.
Last question for me. Thank you you've been so kind with your time. What are you thinking about when you see legendary comedian Kevin Hart do an impersonation of Avery Johnson, the general?
Well, I told my daughter, I said, look, I know you're about to take on this new job, and Kevin Hart's a part of that, part of this organization. I said, when you see Kevin Hart, I say, you better grab him and put him against the wall in the hallway and tell him, stop talking like my dad. And then give him a hug and tell him I said hello and I love his work.
That's awesome. Well, that's a wrap for this episode of the Mark Jackson Show on the Come and Talk to Me Network. I'm Mark Jackson. That's my guy, the Dynamic One Blue. We are so grateful to have the legend, one and only, my brother, family for life, Avery Johnson. Thank you for your time, man. Love and appreciate
you, Coach.
Continued blessings. Remember, my guy Champ asked me a question. He said, you know why rats die at the end of every story? I said, why? He said, because rats' overwhelming desire to get the cheese. See, a rat will see the trap and know it's a trap, determine it's a trap, and still face death getting the cheese. My question to you is, what's your cheese? Is it the car? Is it the career? Is it the checks? Might even be the chicks. Whatever it is, it's time for a change. I want you to live. Blessings.